So, good evening to you all, and here we are on Lizzie Events Live on Tuesday, the 24th of March, bang on time at 1800 hours, and we'll see who comes on board as the show progresses. We've got quite a bit to talk about as the show goes on, and we've got a fantastic guest, a genuinely very, very close friend of mine. Unfortunately, we don't speak as often as we should because, as Rick knows, I'm a little bit tied up with the two businesses at the courts. They're very, very busy indeed, far more than Liz and I really wanted initially, but they're brilliant, brilliant. And we've got so much work on at the moment with the up and coming Mansfield show. Anybody who is watching the reels and promotions that we're doing on Facebook and YouTube, except that it's relentless, and we will continue to be relentless on the promotion of that Mansfield show. We'll be talking about that, I'm sure. We're talking about a cornucopia of things. Rick and I have no need whatsoever to do anything than just ramble on. I'm sure you're going to find it very interesting, particularly people who are interested in spiritual counseling, the tarot, mediumistic work, everything like that. That's where we're going to be going this evening. Apologies to Nikki and Sharon. They were going to be our Thursday guest, but unfortunately we've got a massive workload at the courts at the moment, and we've also got a shortage of staff with holidays, so we won't be able to stream from Nikki and Sharon's shop on Thursday. That'll be for a later date, but I've got Lou Wilkie, the holistic healer who focuses on animals, coming on board on Thursday, and we'll be talking to her online. But we'll talk about lots and lots of things over the next hour. May well ramble on a little bit and move on, but here he is, my great friend, somebody I've known for many, many years now, and I really genuinely respect his work, Mr. Rick Paul. Good evening, Rick.
Good evening. Hope we're all well.
Yes, this time of the day, Rick, we start off with one person, and eventually we get to about 15 or 20 minutes. We have quite a few people on board, but people can listen and re-watch this Facebook Live on the Listen Events page. Let me just put a banner up so people can see what's going on there. Yeah, so you can get us on this one, which is the original Mansfield show. And you will find that at the bottom of that, at the end of that, we've got the contact, which is, here we go, Rick, where is it? It's a blue line. LizzieEvents.org. LizzieEvents.org is the way to go. Rick, for those who don't know you, and there's not many who don't know you on the circuit, would you like to introduce yourself and just talk a little bit about how you came into this work and where you're at, where you came from, and where you're at the moment?
Yeah, it's been a fascinating, circuitous journey, if you like. It's been all over the show. I was a prison officer for 12 years at two local prisons. And towards the end of my time, I had started to have some strange experiences that I couldn't logically put into place. But there was a sequence of events that happened, culminating in when I left the prison service and seeing my grandfather stood in the corner of a garage in full spirit form. Now,
wow.
Lots of people, that might not be a massive thing, but at that point, he'd been dead about 10 years, so it kind of freaked me out. So it came from that, and I've done this talk so many times, as you know, Ian, up and down the country for you guys, and spoke about that. Who do you go to when you start seeing things and hearing voices and stuff like that, and thoughts that you know are not your own?
Yeah.
Well, you go to your local doctors, you're going to be wearing one of them funny tracksuits that are done up from the back and taking some strange tablets. So my journey began with working through the church system, where I just went there to help put out chairs and things like that. But I started to notice how people work and things like that. And it's gone on from there. I always tell the story about when you said to me first off, because I first met you around the time when you was just transferring over from Market Raisin to the Lincoln one. And I just was given that fantastic opportunity to come and exhibit at Lincoln. And I did that. And then it sort of progressed on as it tends to do. And then you sent me this message, how about you doing this talk? And I gave you a simple one-worded answer and just went, no. And then you, as you often do, managed to talk me around and said, well, how about that you go in there and talk about your journey so far? Talk about anything that's brought you into this, how you work with this type of thing. And then if you get any messages, then give them at the end. And I kind of went, okay. And this always makes me smile. Like 9 years further on down the line, in that demonstration to start off with, I was quite like, I'm messing myself. I was so nervous, so anxious. And I went in there and there was 3 people initially sat in that talk room at Trowell. Before all of these lovely renovations were done, it was dripping wet. There was damp on the floor that particular day, and it was really cold. And I went in. There was my wife, who's heard all of my stories and all of my rubbish before. There was an ex-colleague who knew how nervous I was about coming to do this talk. So she'd come for moral support. And then the third one was the last person that had paid to have a reading for me. So in my brilliant mind, I thought, I can't go wrong at this. I can go in there, I can crack a few gags, I can tell my story. It's a good practice ground. And I'm one of these people that doesn't like having like barriers. I like to be able to free move about. You've had to train me, haven't you, to sort of stand still while I'm delivering because I'm a bit twitchy. So I went into that room, moved the table out the way, moved the chair out the way, put my bottle of water down and my clock, turned round, and the room was packed. You couldn't get anybody else in that room. I think it was about 20 odd seats, and then there was people like right the way out the back. And it's gone from there, Ian. I performed one person, and at Mansfield, that's my record audience. I performed, there was 100, and I think it was counted out at 135 people. Now, for somebody who lacks confidence and is not always on the game with that all of the time, that for me was a fantastic achievement and a fantastic memory, and testament to Mansfield as well, which I'm sure we'll cover in a moment as well.
I think that I was saying to you in the green room off air that I think that there is still a very large audience for the mind, body and spirit scene. I think there's a very large audience for mind, body and spirit shows. But I've spent a lot of time, Rick, over the last 6 months, as you well know, talking to people that I've known for a long time about, which direction have you got to take the mind, body and spirit show? Because as you know, we're now custodians of the 30-year-old original Mansfield show. And I want to really get to grips with it. And you know something? It's fascinating that so many people said they're not as they used to be. They haven't got this cohesion. They haven't got this real spirit to them. And so a few days ago, I was reading an article. I was writing an article for somebody about Jung and the 4 archetypes and the collective consciousness. And I thought to myself, I wonder if an event has a collective consciousness. And that's when I wrote the article that went out on Listening Events Wellbeing News yesterday. And it's had some very strong response, because I do believe that you can resurrect the legacy of an event and bring it back to life. And I truly believe that when you start looking at that event, that particular event, I think it has one of the greatest potential of all. And I say this, obviously, we organise it, and it's like a garden, really. It's like a garden that needed scarifying, and all the weeds came out of it, and all of the disdain came out of it, and it's regrowing. It's a garden that's been reseeded, and we just recently, here's wonderful Sharon. Hi, Sharon. Absolutely fantastic lady, and thank you so much for all of the support that you're giving us at the moment. We will talk soon. But thank you so much, and you're always with us, and you sharing and everything you do is so well appreciated. Thank you very much indeed for everything you do. So come back to that. So we've just done the list, and we've got a few weeks to go. We're at 54, which is more healthy than I think it's ever been for a long time. So we're very, very pleased about it. But what's your feeling about all of us? You know, today I got my tarot card green screen out that we've seen many times before, because I think there's a fantastic legacy there that people miss, don't they? Do you still think that there's room for mediums and psychics and tarot readers? Do you think there's still a great deal of interest in it?
Yeah, I do. My thing is, and you know with this, because we've discussed these types of things, that people want evolution. With the days of just sitting there and telling a story through the tarot are gone. And I'm not one for keeping up with trends or anything like that, but people there, I feel, are more concerned with actually working within the energy. So, like, most people have a good idea of what's going on around them. And it's not just a case of turning that tarot card over and saying, oh, this is ended and that's how it ended, and I predict this and I predict that. They want more for the money, right? So that means more time for the person that's sitting there giving the reading to sit in that sort of quiet space of their own, communicating in with their guides and their spiritual team. And it's kind of like a meeting. I feel that when you're working with tarot and you're working with other people's energy, it's like a big meeting between their team, your team, and then you as the practitioner, and the client sort of sat in the middle. We're the focal points. But my big thing is, through doing all of this work, is once you forget about that person that sat across the other side of the table, and you don't make them the priority, you're not serving spirit, you're serving yourself, right? And the one thing that you've said about me consistently, and I will still stick by, I do not trade on ego. So I have to check in, and I think there's room for every sort of medium and psychic and things out there, but just remember who you're serving, right? This is the difference for me, and I wrote this recently. There's a difference between serving and being a servant, right? So you can still have your own mind, right? You can still say what you want, but be responsible for it, right? And remember, at the end of the day, your clients, the people that you are representing, right, are of the most important. So yes, I think there's still a lot of interest in there. I think there's a lot of people that are putting themselves at a lot higher station than they're capable of delivering. And I don't mean that disrespectfully to anybody, because I'm not putting myself out there as either good, bad, or indifferent. It's just watching. Your clients are not stupid, right? And whatever your experience is, they'll vote with their feet, right? So if you're giving them, I don't know, these wild promises, and you've got this label and that label on you, you'll soon run short. So, and as we were talking off camera, the genre itself is absolutely saturated with readers and up and coming people. So you start to miss the mark consistently, there's somebody there jockeying for your place, I can assure you.
Yes, I think that the the old days of rights of progress are missed. I think, you know, a lot of, in the old days, 20 years ago, people may have been reading for or working with their spiritual connections for many years before they even sit in front of people. If there was a long and tortuous rite of passage to become a good reader. And I've thought about it many times. I've where are they? Somewhere. I've been working with this deck on and off for 40 years, I think. And the intuition that it brings and the connections and doors that it opens are very profound, but you really have to work at it to make it work. But what I think is fantastic, as I wrote and have written about on many occasions, is the amount of people, specifically such as yourself, who haven't just let it rest at one area. You've reinforced your work with NLP courses and courses in counseling, and not just small courses, but really in-depth courses, so that you're giving your client, the person who's in front of you, far more than anybody did 25 or 30 years ago. I think, where you're at now, because of the techniques of NLP, for example, you can get a lot of insight as you're talking to somebody. For me, as you know, when I used to read, I used to say to people, do not say anything until I put my hands up and say that's the first part of the reading. And I think it was all the time and amount of people who sat in front of me that gave me a great deal of intuition. I don't know why I was so popular. I mean, I was at Newcastle, people coming up to me and saying, "Oh, I had a reading with you 14 years ago." All this carry on. But the thing is, what I'm coming to is this: I think to make it work now, it's more than just buying a book and buying a deck of cards, getting the readings. It's more than sitting and meditating and attempting to connect to, if you like, spirit. There's more to it than just thinking that you're an all-seeing sage with a ever fountain of knowledge, because that is just not what it's all about, I don't think, Rick.
I agree completely. I mean, mine is born out of some circumstances. I'll be one of the first people to say, and you introduced this term to me, and I sort of gave it some thought, and I thought that suits my style better, of the spiritual counselor, because I would consider myself a very good spiritual counselor, a very good energy worker, but it's not for me to judge whether I'm a good reader or not.
Yeah.
That if you came and asked me, I'd say the same thing when people come around the shows. And bearing in mind, I'm in my 9th year of doing the bigger shows and my nearly 10th year of doing the smaller shows. If anybody comes to me and just go, I'll have a go at it, or just give me a reading, I'm not really bothered what the outcome is, I'll go like that. Just hold yourself there, right?
Yeah.
Because you've got to consider how much that you put into having the money in your pocket, right? And you must want something, or you wouldn't have stepped out into the field that you're in.
Yeah.
So go round, speak to people, feel their energy, see how you feel when you stand next to a place. Because I'll guarantee this, whoever's watching now or in the future or has only seen any of my stuff, I'm not going to give you an easy ride. I'm not going to placate you. I'm going to give you exactly what I'm picking up, because that is the only way I know how to do it, Ian. It's not about being like clever or I'm really good at this and you need to listen to me. It is because I put 100% of my heart into it. Right? And I know that I'm doing the right thing, because when I come home from a show, whether it's been good, bad or indifferent, I can't physically work on the Monday because I'm exhausted. I have given everything. The healing energy, the counseling, the techniques that I've employed, sitting in people's energies that maybe haven't got the strength at that moment. And I give everything that I have got left to give. So when I get criticism, and I'm like anybody else, I get criticism, always know that whatever I've said, and I said this just before I had my tea, actually, my guides are never, in my opinion, wrong. Where the sort of trip-ups come, if you want, for a better word, or is my interpretation of them. But always know that anybody who sits with me, I've got their interest at heart a long way before mine. I am not interested in being proven right or wrong. My belief is that the universe at large, whatever it is that you believe in, I've put you in front of me for a reason. And I just honor that every single time I read it. It doesn't matter, right? And that's not come from my background or anything like that. That has come through the tens and tens of people that have sat in front of me over the years, and I've just sort of sat there and gone, "This is what I've got," right? And you get that whether you pay to come and see me, whether you're sitting in one of my demonstrations. I give it 100% art. Am I any good or not? Well, I honestly don't think that's for me to answer. You know, I talk to people about sort of feedback, and I have this thing in my head that you let feedback and sort of the confident, the real like plus stuff where people big you up and things like that. And the people that pull you down, allow the same amount of space in your head for it. Very little. Because whatever happens, good, bad, or indifferent, you're only just round the corner from one or the other. So
I think so.
I take the plaudits, and I quite happily take the plaudits, but not for long because it makes me feel uncomfortable.
I think, you see, this time that you spend reading with people, I mean, I'll give you an example. I was at Doncaster, must have been 15 years ago. It was quite a busy show, the old days of Angie with the BSSK shows. And I watched a lady, she'd be about 35-ish, something like that. And I watched her all day, and she was going from reader to reader to reader. And I knew full well that she was going to sit in front of me. I just absolutely did. I watched this lady go from reader to reader to reader. And at about 4:30, I'd finished really. I didn't want to do any more. I'd been so busy that day. I was just tired. You know the feeling well. And you think, well, should I do the reading or not? And so I said to her, I said, okay, sit in front of me. And I said, before you even think about spending any money, let me just tell you something. I've just watched you spend, I think a reading in those days was about £30, something like that. Hiya, Beth. Thanks for being on board and much appreciate it. If anybody's got any questions, fire them up on the comment stage and we'll look them through. And we might even get a card out and see if we can interpret it later on. And she sat in, this lady is a lovely, fantastic reader. Christina, as you know, absolutely brilliant reader and fantastic, very, very spiritual aware lady, very high intuitive, fantastic, very, very nice lady. Thanks for being here, Christina. It's lovely to have you on board. It's lovely for everybody who comes on board. I really appreciate it.
Dog Star Tarot, let's give her a nice little plug there as well.
Yeah.
Fantastic lady.
Absolutely brilliant. Very, very, very good. And this lady sat in front of me. I said, let's be absolutely clear about this. I've watched you all day go from reader to reader to reader. I said, so I'm going to ask you the question, which I very rarely do. What do you want to hear? And she looked at me. I said, because that's the only reason you've gone from reader to reader to reader. I said, you will be confused with everything you've heard, international psychics and God knows what else that you've spoken to. I said, so let me tell you what comes from here. You've betrayed him and he's not coming back. And it broke her, Rick. It absolutely broke her. She was absolutely dumbfounded. And I will say this to you. I questioned for a few hours that night whether I'd done the right thing. But, you know, it wasn't anything mystical. It was just years of having people sitting in front of me and the intuition just all fitted together. She'd gone to reader to reader to reader. She was desperate to hear the answer to a question. And nobody that I saw connected to where she was at, because there are certain intuitive things that happen when you read, and one of them is age. You know that people of a certain age group have certain issues, and as people get older, their issues become more your work, your fantastic ability, your mediumistic ability. But when people are younger, it's finance and emotions that are very predominant. And I just put 2 and 2 together with this lady, and I actually said to her, there's no mystery here. I've just had so many people sit in front of me over the years, and I've watched you walk around in your distress. I don't want anything from you, but you just have to face the fact that you know in your heart of heart that you've gone beyond the marker, beyond the breaking point, and you need to be considering about how you can move on. I can't help you with that, but that's what you've got to do. The thing is, you're a young person. You will move on, but it's going to be hard work. And she tried her utmost to give Liz the £30. You know, she really did. And Liz said, "Should I take it?" I said, "No, I don't want it." But I think this intuitive thing that you get, I think that it's a privilege, isn't it, to sit in front of people, but you do have to be, and I know you are, and I want you to talk about it a little bit. The responsibility you have is absolutely phenomenal, isn't it? I mean, you can really influence somebody's life on a very, very, very long-term basis.
My biggest thing, Ian, and again, and back to the ego thing, is that I trade on empowerment of other people. The much missed Philip Underwood spoke to in depth when we did his NLP course about building a rapport with clients. I'm not interested in what I call the spiritual scaffolding element of a reading, where you know there's an issue, you go straight to it, and then we kind of like put the padding around it, the scaffolding, right? Because I've had this experience, I've done that, I've had this trauma, I've had this bad relationship, right? That's all well and good, but what are we here for today, right? Because what I want for the client, not from them, for the client, is the ability to move forward. One of the most frustrating things in my own personal life, where people have said, put the past behind you, right? And I can't get my head around that concept. Put the past behind you. So if you literally do that and put the past behind you, but you don't deal with what's triggered the issue in the first place, the first time that you're triggered in the present moment, you're going to be looking backwards like that to see where it came from. So when a client presents with an issue with me, I want to know straight away. I don't want any information about who they want to connect to or who the last boyfriend was or anything like that. I want to know, how do we progress? How do we move forward? How can I provide a little bit of light and a little bit of protection for you while you, as the client, do the work? And there's been an evolution over the 9 or 10 years. And like we spoke off camera, there has to be. There has to be. But as I say, I'm referring back to the comment I made earlier. I put everything into every interaction, whether I'm sat here on camera with you guys or whether I'm out there on the circuit reading. I know that I've gone and given everything that I can give. If there isn't anything there to be given, I'm not interested in fabricating anything.
Yeah.
To make something stick. It just doesn't interest me. But you can notice the difference around people when you sort of deal with somebody and they go, I didn't come here expecting that. No, but that's what you was needed. That's where you was steered. That's where you was guided. I'm a big believer. I'm not decrying people of religion and faith and things like that, but I'm a big believer in universal source energy that puts you where you need to be in that given moment. You'll not always understand it, because you might end up with somebody, and I had it a lot with Philip, where you sat there and but when you sort of discern what he's saying to you, like, all right, there's some ground here, and sometimes you just have to button it and take it, and then it will make sense later on down the line. But one of these things that I have learned over the years is don't pull back on it. You know, because you look at the body language, study somebody's body language, and they oh no, don't want to know about that, don't want to touch that, don't want to go into that. Right, you're still having it. Right, I'll be sensitive as much as I can, but you've still got to hear this bit because I believe that's what you've been put here for. And then when you give them, it's like, I suppose it's like in the court that both sides puts the case together, and then the client at the end of it then delivers the final verdict. Might not be what they were expecting or wanting, but it's what they're getting.
Yeah. See, Liz says, I've seen things change these past 25 years. People used to seek an answer to a question. Now, with the way life has changed and the pressures people are under, there's not just one answer they're seeking. And I wholeheartedly see that. It's like when people go to an event, I think that you've got to be, as a visitor, you've got to be prepared to embellish the event. You've got to be prepared to spend time with people, talk to people on the floor, talk to exhibitors, talk to therapists, talk to readers, really take part of it, take possession of the event, and you'll get something from it. But we've only got, I think, 5 spiritual counselors, readers at the Mansfield event, and we specifically made that decision. One, to the benefit of the readers, because less readers means that there's a greater potential for them to cover their overheads. But also, we wanted more and more people to be involved that are to do with spiritual aspects. So we've got quite a considerable amount of therapists, because I believe that's why people go to events, to make themselves feel better on a spiritual level. And that's one of the reasons that I introduced, and I did introduce, this name spiritual counselor, and I have watched more and more and more people on board. But as you know, there were a lot of people who resisted with vim and venom the name when I started to use it. But I think they haven't moved on, you see, because to be a spiritual counselor, that's what's happening, isn't it? You get somebody sit in front of you and they say, where are we going? And you say, well, potentially this is here, because we're living in a world where everything is available to us if we are prepared to work at it and if we're prepared to move within the direction of change. But we're also living in a world where the amount of communication which is available is just phenomenal. We've got so many different conduits of information: YouTube, TikTok, Facebook. There are just hundreds of channels of information. And to be fair, it's confusing. And some people just, I mean, sometimes I've listened to things over the last 3 months and I just think, I really think you ought to be going to see somebody. You know, they're just completely and utterly off the Richter scale. You know, you've got people, you know, I'll be open about this. Somebody said to me at Newcastle, who I won't obviously say the name, but they said, oh, do you know there's been a black magic circle working against you? And Rick, I just laughed my head off, because, you know, frankly, I don't give an F. I spent, you know, 20 plus years with the servants of the lightest court school. You know, it's proper stuff, not bloody some form of bloody nails in a bag burying underneath a tree and letting it rot stuff. It's mind work, and it's dedication, and it's conviction. It's understanding cosmic rules. It's understanding all of these things that make things work. And I think that when we look at what a spiritual work is all about, if you like, spiritual work, it is all about helping people and guiding people to enter places of absolute peace, where the flak and the maelstrom of anger, hate, discord, which surrounds everybody. There's no newspaper, there's no newsline, there's BBC, ABC News, all of them. All they want to do is tell you about the world's coming to an end. Your aeroplane flight's going to cost you twice as much. Your fuel's going to cost you a fortune. We know it. We absolutely know that that's the case. But the bottom line is, if you have a deep, wonderful bonding with yourself, and there are people like yourself who offer healing and offer healing on a different level, where you say, come on, you know, the spirit of your body, the spirit of your soul can be so strong, it can overwhelm totally the anguish that you cannot do anything about anyway. That's where I think it's at the moment. And coming back to it, Liz says visitors should take the opportunity of talking to as many people standing at an event as possible. Ask what they do, why they do it, what are they selling, what services are they offering. And people need to start to ask, because for my way of thinking, Rick, and I'm really interested to know your thoughts on this, from my way of thinking, I believe that the chain between our spiritual being, our spirit and soul, is slowly but surely being eroded in a vast majority of people. They live in a material world, absolutely prepossessed with worry, prepossessed with everything under the sun, and they're not sitting and focusing deeply upon what is in here in their heart. Do you see that?
I'm listening to your story. I'm kind of like, when we talk about the coven and all of that sort of dark energy and things like that, I work simply. I think of the old army mentality: keep it simple, stupid. Right. So when I'm working with somebody's energy, I want to know what level they're actually at, because my thing has always been with spirit, Ian, and this has not been taught. It's just how my block head has understood it, is that spirit, the universe, the guides, the gods, the angels, whatever it is that you believe in, are on a much higher plane than what Joey also ran is. Right. So when they're communicating, they've got to lower their vibration, and us down here in the material have to raise that vibration. Right. Some people need a boost or a leg up because they're not there at all. But other people are sort of there, so it's easier for them to connect. So I think it's like the fast food element of things, that everything is instant, isn't it? And people now want instant results, where sometimes that element of contemplation. I mean, another thing that you said to me years ago about the life hours, that's had such...
I live by it.
It's had such an effect on me in saying to people, right, so imagine that every hour, every minute is representative of a pound coin or a 10 pence piece or whatever. Would you really, as a business, because the idea behind any transaction with life is to get some better return, and as NLP always taught us, the thing that we're all looking for is that better feeling. Would you then spend a pound coin on something that's a load of crap and not going to give you any return? Because it doesn't make sense. And yet there'll be people out there that will go out there and they will focus on all of the bad news and all of the darkness and all of the rubbish, just to prove that that's why they're depressed. And I do a lot of my work when we talk about talking to other people. And I use a lot of stories and scenarios because it's what I'm most comfortable doing. So I said, imagine this, that you decide one day that you're going to the cinema to see something. And I looked this up recently. There was a film I fancied watching, 25 quid for the ticket, right? So 25 quid for the ticket. So I thought, well, I'm going to have to pay for parking, which would probably be like 4 or 5 quid, something like that. So there's 30 quid, right? I like my sweets. So I'd have had a bag of sweets or whatever, and I'd have had a bit of pop and what have you. So let's stick another 10 on there. So we're looking at 40, 50 quid before we even sit down for the film. Now, I sit down and I watch the film, and it's a load of rubbish. I could think of other words, but we won't tonight. It's a load of rubbish. Right, so I walk out there and I've got feedback coming into my mind. Right, I've just spent 50 quid and it's been a load of rubbish. Would I then buy another ticket next week to come back and prove that my original statement was correct? No, of course I wouldn't. I mean,
of course you wouldn't. I mean, I had a moment over the weekend where the girls came over to stay with us, and Liz had been chomping at the bit to get the jungle, which is our lawn, cut, and all of the weeds in the boxes taken out. And I watched on Sunday, as I was doing some prep work up here, I watched out of the window down into the garden, and I watched the girls in the garden doing all of the weeding, and they were absolutely, completely dedicated to their task. And Liz was strimming away, and I watched these three people, these three human beings. There was no money involved. There was nothing other than a mission to remove the weeds and trim down the grass. And later, I spoke to them, and the girls were telling me about a frog that they found, and they gave the frog a name, Stan. Stan became the frog. Picked the frog up and put it into one of the other boxes. And they would talk about ladybirds, and just across the way there's about 7 or 8 beehives. But this was the interesting thing. They were so dedicated to their mission that there were bees flying all around them, starting to feed in early spring on the lavender bushes. And I had this feeling of immense, it was, if you like, immensely, it gave me an immense amount of pleasure and happiness to watch this dedication. And I thought, you know, they're connected to nature, aren't they? At this moment, they're connected to nature. It's a truly, truly wonderful thing. You know, Liz is a phenomenal and very active gardener. Kirsty is a phenomenally active gardener. You love your garden. You love creating things. And I think that connection is absolutely fantastic. And, you know, I thought to myself, and I don't use the word pray very often, but as I was watching the girls, I thought to myself, you know, if there is an entity, don't let these girls ever lose that connection where you don't need any money. It doesn't matter if you get your hands dirty. It doesn't matter if it's free. It's seeing things grow. You don't need a big bit of land. I hope that the girls never, ever lose it, because my goodness, there's a lot of people who just don't see it whatsoever. I was talking to a very rich council at the market this morning, actually, and we were talking about, so we'd spilt something on the floor, and I said, "Oh, don't get onto your shoes in case you bring it into the house." And she looked at me aghast, and she said, "I would never allow anybody in my house with shoes, never." And I thought, God, you know, you're possession mad. Craig, fantastic to see you. I'm really looking forward to seeing you at Mansfield, and we'll need to be talking about things going on there. Here you go. Look, love gardening, great for mental and physical health. Stuart says, and rightly, people who do things with a passion if they enjoy doing it. And I think that's absolutely, completely and utterly true. Do you think that sometimes people can be switched back onto their spiritual self, Rick? Do you think you can open the curtains of the stage again?
I tell you, it's been a strange lot of experiences over the last couple of years without bringing like too much sort of darkness into it. When my dad passed away, there was an immediate change of everything that I knew, right? So people have this funny response sometimes that as soon as you mention somebody's passing or gone into the final sleep, as you call it, oh, bless you, right? I understand a little bit of what you're going through. But it's not always like that. It's not always been that healthy relationship. It's not always been that loving thing. So you look for something to like bring yourself out of it, come out of that way. And I believe that what goes on with gardening and things like that, it's an altered state of consciousness, right? So I don't think anybody's truly lost. I think, like you say there, when you go out into the garden, watching Mrs. P when she's doing any pottery or doing anything in the garden or doing anything creative, she's not in this energy field that we're in right now. She's in an altered state of consciousness, which I believe is raised. So it's just getting people to realize. It's like I feel like sometimes it's like stepping above the clouds. You know, stepping above what your imagination's bringing in for you, just stepping outside of that. So you've got to ask the question with people when you talk about switching them back onto their spiritual side. Do they actually want to go there? You know, before the storyline kicked in, and it sort of fits in with the tarot, doesn't it? That when we look at the fool on the tarot's journey, he thrives because he's got no expectations. Right? He has got no expectations. He's open. He's got that sense of childlike innocence, that sense of wonderment. And if we can get back to that sometimes and just go, right, before we had to consider how much the price of oil cost, the petrol and all of the rest of it and all of the negative that's going on, what were we like as kids? All right, we're going to the seaside tomorrow. Brilliant. Great. I'm going to be digging in the sand. I'm going to be on the donkeys. I'll have an ice cream. I'm with my mum and dad. Whatever your storyline is. But as adults, we get tainted by experience. The darkness is like a tar treading sometimes through what I call the mind treacle. We get browbeaten. But I think a lot of the things, and one of the things that I'm really not good at, and I keep looking at this, is patience. And I think patience is a word that I struggle with. But if we substitute that patience for just being, instead of being a human being, a human doing, being a human being, and just there in that moment, I think if we just take that time out and just slow to a pace where we can breathe, because breathing seems to be important in all aspects of life, including like when we're in a panic or we're feeling moments of distress, and just breaking that current state of behavior, I think anybody can be switched back onto that spiritual path. It just comes down to whether they actually want to do it or not.
I think it's an old statement. Francis said something to me once, and it's just come back. You know, it's great, isn't it? You have a conversation, hear something, and something somebody said to you like 30 years ago really comes back. Francis said something to me once. He said, "There's the question: are you a human being, or are you being a human?"
Yeah, makes sense.
And he said, you've got to think about those two questions very, very carefully and find out which one you're at a specific time. Now, Craig is an absolutely phenomenally intuitive human being. He's just absolutely brilliant guy. I just love being in Craig's company. He's a very, very special man. And he says, yes, each moment, situation and connection is an opportunity to reconnect to self, the world and spiritual connection. And that is so accurate. Each moment, situation and connection. I've been reading quite a lot just lately about holographic universe, fascinating subject. And one of the things that I read, I don't know where it came from, but one of the things that really was quite relevant to me was something you said about patience. And, this word patience, having the patience for things to evolve. And while things are evolving, just carry on with your living in the best possible way. And I think there's something really interesting about that. And I think, it's like these people, I think it's absolutely, when people talk about the final sleep, I find it very, very fascinating that people seem to have so much knowledge about what happens when you enter the final sleep. And then are headless chickens when a friend dies, because they don't actually follow the path, do they? It is the final sleep, and it's inevitable. Craig Marks exudes kindness, gentlefold, and loves creative, and he truly is fantastic. And I've got some plates that I'm going to photograph. I want you to copy some plates for me while I'm thinking about it. Les, so and Stuart's right. It's not easy being human. It isn't. It really isn't. And goodness knows that I see enough people in trauma. Let's get talking about shows. Liz says, and those standing I believe, be proactive in having conversation with visitors, connecting with them. And when we make those connections as standardizers, we're nurturing future sales and opportunities. And it's not always about what you do on the day. It's making yourself memorable to visitors for them who want to come and visit your stand again and visit your shop website. When you stand and pay for your stand fee, it's an investment in opportunity to promote your business and products. Now, what I'm going to say is I wasn't actually going to put that up, but there's something about this, because if we take away the aspect of business and sales, actually that statement that Liz has made could be used in the way that you interact with human beings, isn't it? You could say, be proactive in having conversations with the people you meet and connect with them and have the intention of connecting with them. And when you make those connections, nurture future friendship and opportunities of friendship. It's not always about what you do in the first meeting. It's making yourself memorable to people that you meet, and for them to want to come and visit you again and be within your company. And when you stand with an event, or when you are evolved into a position to be with people, it's an investment of your time and your life, and it's an opportunity to promote yourself to be a happier and kinder person. And I think that that intention, that connection, should be continuous at all times.
And I mean, the thing is as well, nobody's perfect in it, other. So there are going to be moments of friction. So the art of communication is knowing when to step in and knowing when to step away. I mean, I love the diversity at shows, and as we said off camera, there are certain people there that will always thrive at shows, no matter what goes on, because they embody that ethos. I mean, I can say this. I can say this for definite, that what you've just said is correct, in the sense of that I think it was about 2-3 weeks ago, I ended up in the middle of nowhere between Skegness and Mablethorpe. I'd never heard of this place. And when I got there, this lady said to me, "Can you remember when I spoke to you at but?" Well, my head's like a shed most of the time, so no, I couldn't remember. But then when she was more specific about, she said, "You had a conversation, you came out with," I said, "Well, it sounds like the sort of thing." And off that was, I would say, a year, maybe, just over a year ago, that I'd said these words, and that got me the house party booking for 6 people that I then went out there and did, so that I profited off. So I invested my life hours, and it would have been literally a minute or so, couple of minutes, because it was one of these sort of fast-paced events, and it cemented something in their mind, and we had to talk to you again. Yeah. And you've gone out there and you've gone, "Well, I'll come out there for 4 people." And well, actually, they've heard you come in and there's a couple of other people. And before you know it, it's making that connection. So even when you don't understand that you've done good, bad, or indifferent on a day, just keep with it. Keep your energy the same at the beginning of the day and at the end. It's not always easy. This is the thing.
No, it's not.
Stuart was right. It's not easy being human. That we all fall foul, I think, every now and again, a despondency and a little bit of disappointment that it didn't turn out as expected. But there's always something around the corner. I was thinking about this. If you think about life as you being a bouncy ball, right? You're always bouncing somewhere. Right, that's the frequency. Sometimes it's higher and sometimes you're lower to the ground. But even in the places of trauma, you're still bouncing. Even in the places of difficulty, you're still bouncing. So your next bounce, when you've gone through the trauma and the difficulty, is always going to be forward. You're going to land somewhere, right? And it's not in that moment that you're currently in. And unless you are one of the, who I believe are about 4% of the world, I believe, that can actually see snapshots of the future accurately. That's my own belief system. The likelihood is that we're all sort of clinging to the same life raft, that when we're going through a difficult time, we're hoping that the next bounce is going to be somewhere that's going to be better than where we currently are. But you've just got to have faith. Yeah. Because, and this is when I give things about, when I talk about the exercise program, but we talked about your book with there are no problems in life, because if you're alive, you can make changes. And if you've entered your final sleep, you can't. So everything is always up in the air for change.
It is. I mean, that book, Never Let Anything Worry You, it sold literally thousands of downloads and whatever. It's still lurking around now, and I still get quite a few royalties from it. And it needs tidying up because it's getting a bit stale. I'm going to come back, talk about books in a minute. We're going to obviously be running over a little bit of time, as has the want of us. But what we need to talk about is, here we go. We plant a seed in someone and it takes root, and then when the time's right, it flowers and they contact you. And that is so, so, so true. Now, on the 11th and 12th of April, we're going to be running the original Mansfield Mind, Body and Spirit show, of which you are going to be taking part. Kirsty's taking part, Craig's taking part. There's a lot of people involved. Now, I need to tell you that we're absolutely immensely pleased that we've got 54 people standing with us. Go to the website, you'll get the list. I have the list here, but I'm not going to reel it out now. It's a pointless exercise. Thank you to everybody who came on board with my impromptu talk about the show, which was a week last Friday. That has had getting on for 900 people on it. The impact of what we're doing at the moment with the reels must take precedence, because the short reel that we did about Kirsty Wood has had 1,250 people on it. So we're making a lot of headways with this. I read an article last night. We published an article last night about the collective consciousness with regard to events, and there's a lot of talk about that article, because I believe that a event that has run for 30 years and has an incredible amount of influence really has a lot of mileage. And I think that, you know, the original Mansfield show, established 1992, see the list on the website or the Facebook event, might have a double chocolate order. Probably. You're a superstar, Kirsty. I think that show has got a lot of mileage. What's your feeling?
It's one of those places that you go in and I go, how does this work? But it's when the collective energies all pull together. And that includes the people visiting as well as the people exhibiting. It's a privilege for me to work in that energy. You know, we all get people there that might be like a little bit dour around us, but if we can, like Stuart was just saying there, if you can plant that seed in other people, that there are alternatives to being dour and dark and down, that you can go out there and you can make changes just by doing the smallest of things. And then that for me has a knock-on effect, because you go home and you will say something to somebody else and, oh, I've not thought about it like that. And then they will add their little bit to it, and it spreads. And we can spread doom and gloom and despondency just like that without even thinking about it. So my sort of plea to people is, let's start considering what we can do despite what's going on in the world. Despite the darkness and the negativity. What can we spread that can be the wave over the top of that, so that we can get past it and bounce somewhere different?
You see, I think that the way people look at things is quite interesting. In fact, you know that I've published this thing many, many times, this Lucifer wisdom. And I've had people say to me, why the hell don't you change the name? You know, Lucifer frightens people. And I say, well, actually, Lucifer means bringer of light. And if you understand that, and you've got the strength to open the pages and read the information in it, then, you know, it's a quite a good read. Now, this book is an accumulation of 4 previous readers and myself. So this book has gone through 4 interpretations, and the first interpretation, the first copy, the first writing of it was in 1907. And then it was that was a chap called Wilberforce, and then there was a chap called Wilson who took it in 1932 and changed it. And then there was Edith Russell, 1948, and myself when I received it about 40 years later. In fact, if you want to, I don't know, Liz will tell you where it is. Liz will give you an email. I'll give 50 of those away worldwide to anybody who sends an email to Liz. I'll give 50 away. It's quite an interesting, because it's a lot to do with what we're doing at the world, spread the positive world. So come back to this show. There's a lot of people who stood with Eric for a long time have moved on. It's absolutely brilliant. But what happens is the show was stagnating, and the people that have moved on, which are quite a few of them, have been replaced. They've been replaced with new, fresh and vibrant blood, new seeds, new growth. It's absolutely fantastic. And we've got some established people who truly, truly love the event. And we've got some new people who we have chosen very carefully. We've had an immense amount of people who have wanted to stand at that event because, as you know, Eric was a bit possessive and people couldn't get in very easily, and that was across the board. So what I'll say about this event here and now, there is no need to pre-book, because I will say this publicly. I think that it was a difficult and not a very good move to restrict the amount of people who went to that show. There was a lot of people who were saying, you know, I can't get in. It's fully booked, which is madness, frankly. And there are still to this day people who still think that that is part of the process. It is not part of the process. You can turn up on the day. Nobody's going to be refused entry. There's no problem with capacity on the event. Please remember that that is clear. That is no longer there. Secondly, we have reduced the prices for people to come to the show. I frankly think that there is no show in this country worth the amount of money that some people are charging. A £5 is enough. It is enough of a contribution. I don't care how people take that. I don't mean it as an offence. I absolutely have no problem whatsoever. But on a personal level, I am very conscious of what people can afford, particularly in our genre. Not to do with what a show is worth. It's what people can afford, truly. So this event is really worked at. I don't mind publicly saying that, but you can pre-book a ticket so you can go straight through. You can pay cash or card on the door, but as Liz say, you can pre-book a ticket, and there is a fast track. So if you've got a free pre-book ticket, you can just go by the queues, say this is my ticket on your phone from the Eventbrite, and through you go, no problem at all. And it works very well indeed. So I don't mind telling anybody that to make this show work, that we have given concessions to all of the people who are standing with us because we want it to thrive. And we will continue to help everybody who stands with us to make this show thrive. I would ask anybody who's standing or anybody who loves the show to please go to Listen Events page on Facebook, Listen Events group, and everything that you see, regardless to this show, share it. It's just a click. It's just go to that share and click, because it helps people like Rick, like Craig, like Kirsty. It makes their job worthwhile. This is what we need to do. We need to make the show enriched and powerful and strong and bring it back to where it is. Rick, before we go, have you got anything to say to our lovely, lovely, lovely friends?
I just want to pick up just slightly on your the sharing aspect of it. We were talking about the sort of evolution of the shows. Do you know what I want personally? I want people out there to encourage the younger members to start coming through. You know, to spread the word of whatever it is that you do, whatever branch that you're on, whether you're a reader, whether you're a seller, and things like that, and start to encourage the more younger aspect coming through. Who's the next generation? Who's the next level of people that are coming through? Because say, having been observing, yes, we are getting a steady trickle of people that are coming through and taking out the old guard, but I'm in my 50s now. I'm not going to be going on forever doing this work, but you want somebody that's going to sort of step in and bring that freshness, bring that vibrancy, bring that sort of more of a drive, that more dynamic sort of energy in with them. So it's about spreading that word, as well as sharing the events that we're doing, is spreading a philosophy, spreading an idea, you know, getting people to come out of this sort of, I don't know, instant like gratification off stuff. You know, we've got all of this thing to, like, well, let's just bring in that more philosophical side, that more gentler energy around people. And I say it's my hope. Look, I've gone past the thought of there ever being world peace. I really have. But I haven't gone past the thought of bringing peace within the sort of local community, the people that you know, finding out how people tick. Just like they're saying, somebody was saying simply in the comments, like wearing the smile and things like that. I get that I might be speaking hypocritically at times because of the fluctuations in my mood, but I'm always believing that there is something better coming up. I honestly, because if there wasn't, Ian, I don't think we'd last. You know, as community, we've seen a lot of people in our immediate field enter the final sleep, and it's took some like leveling out and understanding. I mean, I had a lovely quote from somebody the other day that said to me, because they've done the job, the teachers are going home, they've done their bit. So that set my thought process on to who's doing the next level of teaching. I don't want to step in there because I'm not quick enough in that sense. I want to promote and lift other people up with the different sort of ideas. So I'm actually excited about the future. Whether it will be my full-time future anymore, I honestly don't know, because that's the lovely nature that we're in at the moment. Sort of trying to find that balance.
Transition.
I've got I really believe that. For me, I call it the vortex, Ian. It's like, I see it like the Wizard of Oz, where there's no place like home, that type of thing. Before you sort of you've got to settle and deal with the obstacles, sometimes the illusion, without getting too political over it, and see through that fog before we find that peace and that place to settle. So very excited about the future, Ian, about the shows. You will not go wrong speaking to anybody at this Mansfield show, and then we'll all, to a man, woman, child, whatever you want to call yourselves, be happy to talk about the product that they're bringing out there, whether it's
you see, Liz makes a very clear and accurate statement. We do see new people at every show, and we really, really do see plenty of new people. But I agree with you, we don't see younger people, and that's where you're saying we need to nurture. You see, I'll make a prediction, and this is across the country. We know that there was a very, very large event, very, very expensive tables, and there was a desperation to move the tables. I've got knowledge of what happened, and there's very expensive events to stand are becoming very difficult to sell. I think, and I will make this prediction, I believe that over the coming years, and I think perhaps 3 to 4 years, this is my prediction, I think what will happen is you will end up having loyalty, absolute loyalty, where people make the choices to stay with one genre, one organizer, and just stay fixed to it and don't move away from that. And I think that's what's going to happen. I really do. And I think that the organizer that has, I'm talking about all events, not just MBS or well-being events. I'm talking about the whole spectrum where people go to events. I'm motorcycle, love motorcycles. I'm watching it with motorcycle shows. People are becoming loyal to one type of event. And I think that's what's going to happen. And I think that the events that win, I'm thinking about one of the motorcycle shows, oddly at the Staffordshire Showground. It's the pinnacle event. It's the best of all because it's holding the very best exhibitors. And I think that's what's going to happen. And I think that what we have to accept with all events, not just MBS, not just well-being, all events, what we have to accept is that they're diluted, and the influence of an event on the visitor really makes a difference. So a visitor goes to a poor event, doesn't enjoy it, the quality isn't there, and the rest of the events of that genre is tarnished. That's what I think. I think that we've got to work so that if comparisons are made with visitors of any type of event, if comparisons are made, they need to be having the ability to go to an event and they say that's fantastic, go to a similar event that doesn't come up to standard, then they'll revert back. And that's what I think is going to happen. I think that the creme de la creme, as Cam Wallace used to say, the Premier League, the top ball players, they're the ones that are going to survive. And it's a very, very tough journey ahead. And the attrition rate of people who spend their money, lose it across all events, time and time and time again, that's the damage that's being done. And that's why I think that the people who stand will eventually start to make very positive choices to stick with one event. And I really do think that's what's going to happen. It's a great way of thinking. When we lose people, they've done the job they were here for. And I think that's true. Here's the man, Darren. How are you, Darren? I think that we've got to start facing some hard facts with events. I really do think that, and I think we've got to accept the fact that there's a lot less money about than there has been, and it's getting tighter, and we've got to do absolutely everything to make sure that people get value for money. I really do believe that. Good. So, Rick, there we have it. We knew we'd run over.
Kind of a given, isn't it, really, with me?
Yes. So just one. Should we do just one each for anybody random? Just one card for anybody random. Let's see if it's a feeling. Do you want me to fire up first, or you do one then? Mm-hmm. Okay. So for somebody, and I haven't done this for a long time, I've got this card. It's a great card, and it's the Two of Wands. I'm looking at it now. The technical name, the Two of Wands, the occult name is called the Lord of Dominion. You hold the world in your hands, and your creativity is your strength, and your creativity in the future is your strength. Hold the world in your hands and look at the vast horizons ahead of you. Do not be afraid to close doors, take a chance, and if you like, go into a vacuous space where anything could happen.
Right, what I've gone with, because I've got 3 decks, because I had a client in here yesterday, so I've got the 3 decks that I use when I'm reading. I've decided to go with an angel card, an oracle card, from the lovely, like very strange though, Doreen Virtue. Can't understand how you go from one extreme to the other, but these cards have always worked for me, so I've stuck with them. Right, so with this card, we have got another sort of around what you've just said there. It links in neatly for me because I've got an ace, which talks about new beginnings and fresh starts. I've got pink, which is all about the heart chakra and the love from the spiritual world. And it's your lucky day. New resources of money, time and support, and a change in job or promotion. So linking in with what Ian's just said there, sometimes we have to take that chance.
We do.
That whole world in your hand and fuel those changes. Be that change that you want to make. Be that one. Affect your own outcome. And one of the sites that I subscribe to has the same tagline that it finishes off with every week when we're doing the reading. Action shapes destiny.
Absolutely. Click on the link in my comments below. It takes you to the Facebook page. Istvan's with us, and he will be with us at Mansfield. Fantastic guy. Absolutely brilliant. And the reel that I've done for Istvan is about, let me have a quick look, 670 at the moment. So pretty good. 670 looks at that reel. So there'll be more and more reels coming. On Thursday, we've got Lou Wilkie, holistic healer focusing on animals, animal Reiki. Very interesting lady. We're talking to her. We've got the girls, Sharon and Nikki. Next week, I'm hoping. I don't like letting people down, but we just haven't been able to go over to the shop to do the filming there, to do the show. It's just one of those things. I really apologize for that, but you're going to have a fantastic, absolutely fantastic. Some thanks going on here. Sharon, thank you so much. Beth, Christina, Liz, of course, Norma and I have known each other for many years. An absolutely fantastic lady, very spiritual. And Norma's got the Red Book, Jung's Red Book, a copy of Jung's Red Book, which I'm immensely jealous about. I've wondered whether I should buy that book myself, but at the moment it's colossal. It's like £200 for a book, and I can't do these things at the moment because I've just got a whole room full of books. I've got full of cameras and whatever, and a lot of it's got to go. Kirsty, of course, Liz, wonderful. Craig, thank you so much for being with us. Stuart, of course, it's fantastic. All the support you give us, Stuart, and the support we don't see, we know all about, and it's truly fantastic. Thank you so much. And we've got, I think we've covered everybody there. I'm bound to have missed 2 or 3 people, and some of the anonymous people who have been on board. Darren, thank you so much for coming on. Great supporter. And at Mansfield, Darren's talking. I saw his recent talk. Here we go. Look, we'll be with Crystal Clouds very soon, and we will. I'm really looking forward. And I need to speak very quickly about Crystal Clouds. Go to their shop. It's absolutely fantastic. Lovely people. They have done so much behind the scenes to support the Mansfield show. It's absolutely incredible. We cannot thank them enough. They are absolutely, everybody who stands at Mansfield have good reason to thank Sharon and Nikki for the immense amount of work they're putting in. It's just overwhelming. We're so happy. Norma, we think of you often. Miss seeing you. Had some good times with Di Wilson in those early days at Whitby. And we did. We're not going to talk about those drunken times, Rick. In the Jolly Sailors at £1.50 a pint, going back in time. Yeah, Istvan, KMA massage treatment. You'll absolutely love it. Rick, I cannot thank you enough for coming on board. I think we ought to do more of these, you know, don't you?
Yeah, absolutely agree. Get some reading done.
Istvan, yeah, see you then. Really, truly look forward to it. And here's Normal Look. Although I don't run my business now, I'm very much into sharing with young people. They are the future. Love listening. And yes, the artwork in the big red are amazing. Think of you too. Yeah, I think that I'm going to have to indulge in that book. I really do. I've hankered after it for a decade. I think it might be an itch I've got to scratch. Or I'll make one of my own. So we might even talk about the red, might even get Norma on and talk about the Red Book, because it is one of the most fascinating pieces of work you could ever get your head around. Yeah, so Crystal Car is very proactive for the community, and the shop is a beacon. It is. Maybe we'll do that, Rick. Shall we? Should we have an hour of reading?
Sounds good to me. I can manage that.
Yeah, and not only that, this wonderful new StreamYard, pay for StreamYard, has got a blocker on it. You know, when you got the comments,
right?
You can go to the 3 stars, and it says delete comment and block user, and it actually just does it for you.
Yeah.
So it's brilliant. So we can do all that. So if people want to come and play with us, we can get rid of them straight away. Yeah. God bless you all. I'll see you on Thursday with Lou. I hope Rick comes on board and has a chat. Rick and I will have a chat after I wind the show up. I'm going to end the stream now. I've got to set the outro video because, as you noticed, Did you notice I'd got the wrong intro?
No.
Well, there you go. Okay. Thank you all. Thank you, everybody, so much. You've been brilliant for this hour and a half. Just remember, we've got Darren here, and he's saying, "See everyone soon." For goodness' sake, if you go to Mansfield, you go and watch his talk. Brilliant. He was absolutely on form just recently, and he's got he's got a great show coming off that we're going to have a look at. Blah blah blah, and that's it. Rick, stay on board. Thank you, everybody. Thank you. May God bless you, and let's hope everything goes well for you. And we'll see you very soon. And Isfan says, thank you, Ian and Rick. Isfan, thank you. You're such a phenomenal asset to everything that we do. People love you to bits. People come to the events that we organise to see you and to work with you. And that is just such a wonderful thing, in the same way that people come to see Kirsty, people come to see Rick. There's a real hive of wonderful people out there. Thank you all. Thank you very much. Rick, stay on board. God bless you all. Go and get yourself a nice glass of wine or a cup of tea. And if you've got the inclination, a bar of chocolate.